We got some heavyweights in this one, AJ. And once again, only got one photo. We got Davion Franklin, who's actually number 7 ranked in the Bellator rankings, man. So rankings do come into play for this entire event. But he's fighting a sneaky, undefeated 15-0 Everett Cummings, man. And once again, when we're talking about film study, I had to really dig. And I was able to find a little something, an outdoor event for Everett Cummings. But nonetheless, man, we got a bomber, a top control specialist, a first-round gas machine in Davion Franklin. All-day Davion Franklin versus Everett Cummings, who is 2-0 in Bellator. Listen, man, this is really interesting to me because you have an older southpaw in Everett Cummings, a big boy, not the most fit type of guy, but he's one of your more traditional heavyweights as opposed to Davion Franklin, AJ. Does he give you just the slightest bit of like DC vibes, Daniel Cormier vibes?
Yeah, 100%, man. Like a younger, crazier Daniel Cormier, maybe Daniel Cormier when he was in college, 100%, man. And Everett Cummings gives me, oh man, I just had him. The Big Country, Roy Nelson.
Roy Nelson, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's like 2 younger DC versus Roy Nelson going at it, man. This one's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. So Davion Franklin, he opens up as a -245 favorite, +195 comeback for Everett Cummings. And I think that the line is as such because this is a heavyweight contest and anything can happen in the heavyweight division, right? Now, AJ, Davion Franklin, I'm sure you've seen, he only has 3 fights, right? And in those 3 fights, he's notorious for, he goes all out in the first round. By the time the second hits, he might not got nothing left. It worked out in his favor in his second fight, the only fight that he's had that has gone to a decision and actually ended up being a technical decision, because he basically gassed himself out. He was able to maintain top control, and when he was fighting this dude, Hilton is his last name, punched him in the back of the head. He couldn't continue, but luckily it went to the 3rd round, so it got marked as a technical decision, and Davion Franklin got the win. If that didn't go that way, I don't know if he would have won the fight. But with that being said, man, this is a dude who is very athletic, throws sneaky athletic kicks in the whole entire 9. And he reminds me a little bit in his wide stance of like a Deontay Wilder, you know, over there looking for just the big bombs, man. So let me just ask you, in this heavyweight contest where anything goes, man, give me the odds of the dark horse, the unknown Everett Cummings. What are his chances of pulling off an upset here?
Pretty good, actually, man. They're both very naturally skilled. You know, if I had to look at this going forward, man, both of these fighters, they're not so deep in their training that they have already taken out of their, you know, their comfort zone. They've been, you know, trained to not do the things that they normally naturally want to do. Both these fighters are very, very natural, very orthodox, or maybe not orthodox, the word I'm looking for, but like very in their own. So, you know, what that leads to, man, Davion Franklin, he's very slow and methodical, and he'll blitz in. Everett Cummings, man, this dude is a heavy wrestling pressure. So not necessarily, I don't think Everett Cummings is going to be able to get a KO, but he will be able to, if he's able to withstand the first round, he's going to be able to outwork the guy, man. He knows how to be able to stay long, or to stay inside the match long enough to where the gas tank starts to become an issue. That's really where I see Everett Cummings having the best of luck going forward, is that he's able to outgrind Davion Franklin going forward and really make it, you know, drag him into deep waters and make it that kind of match where it's 2 big boys just trying to get heavy top pressure and maintaining aggression. I don't know. What do you think? How do you see this one playing out if Everett Cummings is able to get the dub?
Well, one thing that I think that's interesting about Everett Cummings that I saw is that he was fighting some regional fight, you know, like I said, it was some outdoor fight. And, you know, the fight opens up and then he gets top control. He lands on top, he immediately gets reversed, put on his back. And I was just like, oh, man, like this isn't good for him. And he, like the display that he put on went to show that he didn't have much off of his back until one thing, you know, led to another. The man got the rear naked choke, finish, bow, done. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he has the ability to finish opponents off of his back. He has the ability to stay in the fight on his back. But this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, AJ. We often see these grapplers, man, very comfortable off their back, perhaps too comfortable off their back. And real quick, AJ, just turn me down in the monitors just a little bit. But we often hear these grapplers, we see them just be a little too comfortable off their back as if it's a BJJ match as opposed to an MMA match. Now, when you're fighting a dude like Davion Franklin who throws everything with bad intentions, do you think it's even a good idea to entertain oh, let me get on my back really quickly and try to do some jujitsu, even in the first, second round. I feel like that's not something you could do till the third round until the power is completely zapped out of Franklin's arm. The lactic acid is completely built up, because to me, that's a recipe for failure right there, man. That's a recipe for getting your face smashed into the canvas, because that is what Franklin is trying to do. He's not trying to punch you. He's trying to punch a hole through the canvas once he punches your face, man. So just what do you think? You know, do you think he should, Cummings should even entertain the grappling in this one?
Hell no, Derek. I think Cummins should stay away and maintain distance as much as possible, man. If the crazy thing about Davion Franklin is, yeah, his gas tank's gonna go, but if he's in there and they're heavyweights, man, he always has the potential to knock you out. So just same thing as sort of like a Derek Lewis, where he's not necessarily the most talent rich fighter. You know, he very much so has his ones and his twos and his things he likes, but he's always has that power, man. He can always do that. Whereas Everett Cummings, he really needs to be comfortable, I guess not necessarily on the ground. He needs to be more comfortable maintaining top pressure. You know what I'm saying? This dude cannot allow Davion Franklin to get a little bit of control, because once he does, it's going to be the Franklin show all day long, man.
Yeah, I mean, all day is the nickname for a reason, man. Let me ask you this really quickly. It's the last question before we give our pick on this one, AJ. I just want to know, in your opinion, do you think as a fighter, right? And obviously, this is an opinion piece right here. This is us just speculation. You're a high level. You're in Bellator. That is high level, if you ask me. Davion Franklin, he's won all three of his fights. Even that close call in that second fight that he had, man, at what point do you say, all right, man, I can't blow my wad in the first round? Because it feels like he just hasn't learned that lesson. Like, he just keeps blowing the wad, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, hopefully we win. But at what point in your career do you start taking yourself seriously and start taking your career seriously and saying, all right, I got to have a different strategy if I want to get to the top of the top? Yeah, this is working at 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, but will this work at 10-0? Will I even get to 10-0? Just give me your thoughts on that one. Do you think it actually takes a loss? Like, a lot of these fighters, it seems like it's just you have to learn the hard way. But what are your thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, I do think it. You have to learn this one the hard way. I mean, if you're smart about it, you already know in your head, man, I got to get a better gas tank. I got to be able to do this. I can't blow, like you said, blow my wad first round. But usually, more often than not, you always perform to your level of your lowest training. You know, everybody, we like to practice like crazy. We like to do all this stuff like crazy, but we always, whenever the adrenaline starts pumping, we revert back to what is most comfortable, what is most known. And for him, what's most known is just that lull him in and blitz on people. So I definitely think, unfortunately, for most fighters anyway, I know a lot of the time it takes an L. You know, it takes your lowest loss. It takes really getting beat up, getting drug into that deep water and realizing, man, you're quitting on yourself more than anything. I hope it doesn't be that way for Davion Franklin, but it seems to be more often than not the case. Whereas that's when you learn a lesson, when you really give up and you've really had to do a deep dive on yourself and realize, like, oh shit, man, I'm the one that lost this fight, because if I would have just not done this and that and this, then I would have been able to keep going. I would have had the gas tank, all the X's and O's would have been in line. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I do think a lot of the time it does come to just taking that L on yourself and realizing it then. I know a lot of people, you can always tell people what to do. You can always coach them into saying this, and really try to hit the hammer home. But a lot of the time it really does take some self-evaluation. And unfortunately in fighting, that self-evaluation comes in the second and third rounds when a dude's punching you in the face and you really can't do anything about it. You're trying, you just feel like, all right, hit me with the rear naked. Let me tap, man. Come on, be nice about it. What do you think, Derek?
Well, no, I'd absolutely agree with you, man. The one difference that I have in this one is that, listen, if you're Davion Franklin, you're training at Jackson Wink's Academy out there in the great state of New Mexico, man. So you got really legit athletes around you, man. Hopefully somebody would have been like, hey, bro, maybe you should try to fix this up in your game. I don't know. I just think with fighters, man, a lot of the fighters will tell you, hey, man, well, why don't you get in here and you try it? And it's like, listen, man, we just trying to help you out. That's all we saying here. I get it. It's a tough thing, man. I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch of the imagination, but you got to do the work if you want to be able to be the best of the best, man. Like Khabib says it himself, man. Got to make sacrifices if you want to be the greatest. So I don't know if that's what what Davion Franklin wants, but I do know, excuse me, that the man is on a tear. He is winning and he's knocking out everybody in his path. The last question that I have, I just want a quick response before we give our pick, AJ. You don't get to 15-0 for no reason, man. You have to be a gritty individual to get to 15-0 in professional mixed martial arts, and that is exactly what Everett Cummings, the plus 195 underdog, is. Do you think that that 15-0 experience, which is 12 more fights and 12 more victories than Davion Franklin has on his record, do you think that is going to play a large factor in the outcome of this fight? And then give me your pick on the fight, AJ.
I think it could. I think it really could. A lot of the 15-0 fights or a lot of the 15 fights that Everett Cummings has haven't necessarily been amongst the deepest of talent. So it could come into play, especially the fact that he has a lot of round 1 and 2 finishes, man. That's the thing. Everett Cummings, he's been able to get these people out pretty quick, as well as he depends a lot on his weight. You know, he depends a lot on being that bully, being like how I said his name before.
Heavyweight,
big country. How Big Country likes to use how he used to do the same thing, man. He would just literally lay on people, and the same thing with Everett Cummings. He'll just lay on people and punch them until they submit, or punch them until the ref stops. So I do think it could be coming into fruition, but it's going to be able to tell, or at least we're going to be able to see if it's real, or his past has been real deal, or if Davion Franklin is the real deal opponent that we need to see him fight against for Everett Cummings, man. What do you think?
Well, I think that, like I said, experience comes, you have to sacrifice to get the experience ultimately. And I do think it's going to play a factor in terms of the deep rounds 2 and 3, if it does get there. Because even if you have been getting your opponents out of there, excuse me, folks, you should still be able to use that experience, rely on it, that grittiness of like, I've been almost finished before. Now I just turned it around and I ended up getting the finish. Like I said, it was the fight that I was watching where Everett Cummings, he got his position reversed. It was a terrible spot, man. It looked like the fight was going to be finished. Next thing you know, he was able to get to the feet and reverse it and do this and get the choke in. So, like, that's where I'm talking about. Davion Franklin hasn't experienced the real adversity to grit through these fights yet in his career. I personally don't think so. So I think it'll be fun to watch. However, I'll just start off with my pick, AJ. I'm going Davion Franklin, knockout round 1. I don't think it gets to the late rounds, man. But if it did, I do think Everett Cummings would definitely have an experience advantage, have that to rely on. But I think Davion Franklin, man, he's just too athletic in that first round. He's such a problem because he looks small, but he's not very small. He's 6'2", man. The man is huge. In terms of a heavyweight, it's not the biggest heavyweight. Very athletic, throws crazy kicks, crazy little karate side up kicks and all that craziness. You know what I'm saying? I know you're a fan, AJ, and give me your pick. Who you rolling with?
Yeah, man, I think I'm right with you, man. I think Davion Franklin, he's the more talented fighter, whereas Cummings, he's the more experienced. The tools look sharper for Davion, whereas Cummings, like I said, utilizes his weight and his wrestling skills. So it's going to be hard to do that against another big dude who's also a very good wrestler coming out of Jackson Wink like Franklin. But I'm going Davion Franklin, KO round 2. I think he's going to be able to get it done. It's going to be an interesting round 1. We'll see if he gets it done then, but I definitely think it's going to come in the second round, man. Davion Franklin, KO round 2.
Okay, I mean, I'm surprised that you think it'll even go 2, man, because Davion Franklin, he really starts to, teeter off once round 1 is over. But I will say, man, one thing that would make it maybe a little more assuring for me, if I just had more information on Cummings, man, it's hard. You don't know what gym he trains out of. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of little intangibles about the Everett Cummings, excuse me, that is very important. But we'll move on.